My number one objective for this podcast is to humanize myself, those similarly situated. That is the objective of this podcast.
Yeah.
Too often, people who have spent a long time incarcerated, imprisoned, people question whether or not they have their faculties, whether or not they're qualified to coexist in society, whether or not they are equipped to function under the societal norms. So I want people to know that, yes, we still have our faculties and we are qualified to do all of everything, even if we had nothing.
Right. And with that being said, we're going to kick off this next episode. This is 5.
It's episode number 5.
Episode number 5. The butterflies
So,
about to hatch out the cocoon soon.
absolutely. I have
Yeah.
no doubts.
Right.
You know, I'm an eternal optimistic,
For sure.
and I just believe every day that it's going to go my way.
Yeah.
You
For
know,
sure.
since a little nigga, I always believed that it's going to go my way eventually.
Yeah.
With the dice and the game, with the girls, eventually it's going to go my way.
Most definite.
That's what the eternal optimistic is.
Yeah. That's good. That's the best thing to be, especially coming up into the system and the adversarial things that you had to go through to get where you at now. It was important for you to be that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely, brother.
Yeah, so we approaching the 1 year anniversary of hashtag 330, the Wrongful Conviction Podcast with Jason Flom, which is your episode.
For sure.
Available everywhere, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you consume media such as this is available everywhere.
For sure. Hashtag 330. Jason Flom with Tysheem Crocker, Wrongful Conviction Podcast. So it's been a year since that episode dropped.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. If you haven't listened to it yet, I think you should listen to it. This is how it should be done. That's how he doing it. And it's an award-winning podcast.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely that was a big deal, man. Like, I think that on our journey we were always looking for something with that type of validity to tell your story. And I feel like that was like something that was a godsend for us.
I agree. I've done, smaller scale media outlets or influencers have reached out to me and offered me an opportunity to be on their platforms to tell my story. But when this occurred, it was like it came out of nowhere, and I think we were more than deserving of it. But like I said, it came out of nowhere. I just remember calling my man Zoe, one Lozo, aka Lozo Couture, and they had the Innocence Network convention was going on,
Right.
spring 2022. And I remember calling him and saying, Kitty had just concluded her investigation and she had been able to prove through her investigation that I am actually innocent of the charges that I've been convicted of, and I've spent my entire adult life incarcerated for. And I sent him the report. And it turned out Kitty Haley had also done his investigation and assisted in, his release from prison. But this particular day, Lozo,
Yeah.
being the incredible dude he is, says, I want to introduce you to somebody. This is the biggest dude in the criminal justice reform movement. So my mind in that moment, I would like to say, and I'm not ashamed to say it, was minuscule. I was thinking he was going to put a dude on the phone who had spent 30 years in prison and was out there running it up, doing his numbers, influencing society on his platforms, and then, informing them of what it's like to be incarcerated unjustly.
Right.
That's how far my imagination allowed me to go in that moment.
Right.
But he put Jason Flom on the phone. And I had read about Jason Flom in the Rolling Stone in 2020 on the pandemic, and I was familiar with his work.
Yeah.
When Jason got on the phone, I was shocked. I was like, what the fuck is the chances of this?
For sure. Right.
You know, I talked to Zoe on numerous occasions, but never did I imagine he was going to be able to put me on the phone with Jason. And Jason is an incredible dude, a record making motherfucker.
Right.
He's him in the music industry, and we get on the phone, and he introduces himself, and I say, "Hey, I'm Tysheem Crocker," and he decides at that moment, "Send me what you got," and the vetting process began,
Right.
and it's not easy to get on the Wrongful Conviction podcast, first of all,
Right.
and rarely does a person that's still incarcerated get the opportunity to tell their story
For sure.
on the Wrongful Conviction podcast. Most of the episodes are dudes who's been exonerated already or who have accepted an Alfred plea. An
Right.
Alfred plea is when the government knows something went wrong in your case and they overturn the conviction and offer you a plea, and the individual accepts the plea
Right.
and he's not fully exonerated. So, but rarely does a dude that's actually still sitting behind the wall in the belly of the beast, waiting to be regurgitated,
Right.
get the opportunity to be interviewed by Jason Flom.
So
So
okay. Okay.
come on.
No, I was like, so that's like a big deal, man. Like, you know what I mean? When you finish explaining, I'm gonna ask you some questions about going into it. But yeah,
For
finish this.
sure,
Yeah.
it's definitely a big deal. Like, it's like it's like hitting a jackpot in some ways. Like to be
Yeah.
on that platform, it's getting 11, 12 million, downloads. That's people who never heard of you or never knew your story getting the opportunity to hear how you are innocent and how you was wrongfully convicted.
Right. So what was like the whole experience of doing the podcast like? Like I know you had to go from being on the streets to getting locked up to where you were at now. So how was that experience rehashing all of that stuff?
It was emotional, man. Like, it was like 4 days of recording. It was, consistent um preparation. I had to be vulnerable. I had to be truthful. I had to be honest.
Right.
I had to bear my scars. I had to show the world my disappointment, not just in the system, but in myself. And some days was better than others.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it was something that was necessary because not a lot of people didn't know my story, and they didn't even have no reason to believe my story.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They don't have to believe me because I say I'm innocent and I was wrongfully convicted
Right.
and I was framed. Nobody has to believe me. Why? Why do you understand what I'm saying,
Yeah,
bro?
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, that's the song. That's the same old song, right? That's what they would say. Oh, that's the same old song. Everybody say that they innocent, they ain't do it. You know what I mean? And they don't know their minds are not so in tune with the law that they don't know that wrongful convictions can happen. And yeah, I'm telling you that. Yeah, you may hear somebody that did something say that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that because I'm on this side of it that I'm guilty. Just because I'm been convicted and I'm in jail, that doesn't mean that I'm guilty. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like, and people don't think that. They just one sided to it.
right, right. So when we did this, it like I said, it took some days and some tough questions. And what I had in my favor was that Kitty Haley, an extraordinary investigator, um, had done that investigation in 2021, and
Right.
at the conclusion of investigation, she had announced that I was not just wrongfully convicted, but very well innocent as well.
Yeah.
And that podcast episode was based on Kitty Haley's investigation.
Which was like, yeah.
Finally, I was in a position where I didn't give a fuck if you believe me or not.
Right. Right.
Some of the best people in the criminal justice reform movement
Right. They saw
knows I'm
that.
innocent.
Right.
They saw the flaws in this case and this conviction and decided that they were going to stand with me and be by my side as I walk out of this place and be by my side as I find my way back to what life, what living, and what loving life and living looks like.
Right. Yeah. So I know you felt a lot. You already told you had to be vulnerable, so you felt a lot of vulnerabilities. But more so because I feel like you say you innocent, but I don't think you ever really laid it out for everybody, for anybody really, like from start to finish, how you got convicted, how you got set up. I don't think everybody, and you learned a lot of things too through Kitty's
Yeah,
report that you didn't know yourself.
absolutely, absolutely. I think we plan on getting into the Kitty Haley report in sometime down the line,
Yeah.
but the vulnerability that I speak of is having to voice and express what it was like, not just in 1997, but from my childhood, from my inception into this world, this cool world in the late '70s. And we talked about dysfunction, abnormal upbringings,
Right.
growing up in the Bronx, New York, and going back and forth between uh, Harlem, the Bronx, Queens, New York. Being on the streets at a very young age. Going out of town at 14 years old. How many dudes was going out of town at 14 years old?
Right. Right. Not many. Not
Uh,
many.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And then just expressing that, and I had to talk about the relationship with my mother and her sobriety or whatever,
Right.
and these was touching things. But in order to tell this story, I had to touch on those things. Foster kid,
Right.
dropping out of school at a young age, running away, becoming a drug dealer at 12 years old.
Right.
So it was very emotional.
Yeah, I could imagine, like delving back into that stuff, especially not even so more the betrayal of your childhood friend and all of that, but your upbringing, raising yourself just about in the streets. You know what I mean? Like I know that had to be
Yeah.
rough on you because I know kids. I mean, you could act like you tough, but I know inside you still got emotions. You know what I mean? Like those things still hurt you to feel abandoned and feel like you don't have no other outlet but to be in the street. You know what I mean? Like those things make somebody turn to a life of having to become someone that has to sustain themselves by doing illegal stuff like selling drugs and going out of town and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And I know those things are hard for a kid. Those things are hard for an adult, yet alone a kid. You know?
Right. 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 It was definitely hard. So that summer, two of my closest friends have been murdered,
Yeah.
and I was with both of them. And I felt like I could have got murdered. I could be murdered,
Right.
and it fucks with your psyche. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? I was 14 when that happened.
Right.
Part of the reason I went out of town was
Avoid. Yeah.
to escape that madness. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And my mind was saying the life expectancy in my neighborhood has just become 15 years old.
Right.
So yeah, let's go out of town. Let's get some money.
Mm-hmm.
And never in a million years did I think that decision, the consequences for that decision was that I would be uh, wrongfully convicted for murder
Right.
or conspiracy to commit murder. But
Mm.
yeah, we here, man.
Yeah, we here now. So now that you did it, it's been a year since then. How has your life changed since the release of that episode with Jason Flom?
Since the release of episode hashtag 330, my life has changed tremendously, man. Um, Me and Jason have a bond,
Right.
talk on a regular basis. He believes in me. It is evident how much he believes in me because he had a visit to the Breakfast Club
Right.
with Charlemagne the God, DJ Envy, and he decided my case, my wrongful conviction, was worthy of mentioning on that national platform.
Right.
Um, he was intricate and instrumental in me securing um, one of the best attorneys in Pennsylvania,
Right.
or if not the country. He spoke on my behalf. Um, it's been incredible, man. I've met some incredible people, man. Kalia Ali, she's
Right.
extraordinary. That's Muhammad Ali's daughter.
Right.
Uh, he introduced me to John Grisham,
Right.
mega author, writer
Right.
extraordinaire. He's introduced me to fellow exonerees,
Right.
attorneys, activists. My life has definitely changed, man, since since that episode was released. Because also the administration,
Right.
you know, no one believes you when you say you're innocent. But I guess when a rich white guy is saying you're innocent,
Right.
and don't take that the wrong way, man. I'm apolitical. Um, I love people, period. If you
Right.
genuine, I love people. If you a fucked up person, I avoid you at all costs.
Right.
Um, but he says you're innocent, and no one questions it except the adversaries.
Right.
But even they backing up, you know, uh, in they boots. So it's been my life has changed tremendously, man. People I probably wouldn't have met, I've met, and there's a lot going on, man. It's going down.
Yeah. Well, you kind of answered my next question about how does it make you feel now that the story is out there and people could really see the facts and know that you're innocent. You kind of answered that with your previous answer that you gave. But if you have any more that you want to add, if you
What's
want,
the what?
well,
What do you
now
want
that
me?
this,
What,
yeah, now that your story is out there, how does it make you feel? How does that make you feel that your story is out there for everyone to hear, even people that may not know you?
it's a relief. It's definitely a relief. I've been saying this forever.
Right,
I'm innocent. I ain't do this. I've been fighting my motherfucking ass off.
right,
You know, tooth and nail, man, in and out of court, in and out of court. There's seldomly, rarely have I not been in court.
right.
Know what I'm saying? And so it's a feel good story right now, but I'm still incarcerated. It's gonna be even better. Everyone on my team has high expectations for me as a free man, my capabilities, my potential. Look what I've done from prison.
Right, right. I always tell you that, man. So, but
You
honestly,
always tell me that.
yeah, I do always tell you that because it's like I said, man. Like you could get there, and I know that the the culture of jail. You hear the stories, you be like, oh, you got to get in, and you got to change. You got to become a beast. You got to become an animal. You know what I mean? To survive
Hmm?
the. I'm not saying that those things aren't true, but I'm not saying that that's not the only truth. That doesn't have to be your only path.
I feel like my story is so unique because I, like, based on societal belief, um, I have nothing to live for. What do you have to live for? You've been condemned. You're irredeemable. You know what I'm saying? Yet I made a decision to write a book, then the second book, then the third book, then the fourth, then the fifth, then the sixth. I've helped other dudes write books. I've helped other dudes get published.
Right,
You know, but at the same time, while in prison, I was faced with a harsh reality that lawyers don't take honey buns. Lawyers don't
right,
take cookies. They don't take cakes. They don't take candy bars. GTL does not take postage paid envelopes. You need money. You need to be able to be sustained, to be self sufficient. Investigators, there's no contingencies. You can't take a mortgage out based on what you're gonna do. It's what have you done.
right, for sure.
So I've been able to educate myself and at the same time make sure that I did not lose my way. And what I mean by that is I come from the mud. I'm a hustler. My first hustle was packing bags. I can recall times my mother woke me up and said, "Come on, get your ass up. We
Mm,
going out. It's 5
right,
in the morning. The sun ain't even up yet. By the time the sunrise, we got 2 shopping carts full of cans that's been spent. We turning these in for nickel a piece.
right,
I ran deliveries up hills, not knowing what I'm gonna get. You might get $1 for pushing a cart 4 blocks full of a
right,
cart full of groceries 4 blocks. The motherfucker might give you
right,
$20. But I did it all. I sold teddy bears, air fresheners. I did all that before anyone ever asked me to sell
right,
drugs for them. So I'm a hustler.
right.
Hustlers know how to survive
For sure.
and
That's some
persevere and prosper.
right. Yo, so honestly, I wanna ask you an honest question. Like I know you don't know no other way to be but real, but I just want to solicit this honest answer from you. After all these things that the system has done to you, your best friend, all of this time you spent in there, are you bitter? Why? You know,
Oh, man, I'm not bitter. because bitterness leads to deterioration. When you bitter, you walk around with a chip on your shoulder with a grudge. You can't see clearly when you bitter.
Right.
I can't be bitter. I needed to be able to comprehend, to be able to read, to be able to write, to be able to communicate. And being bitter would not allow for that. Was I disgruntled?
Yeah.
Was I unhappy? Absolutely. People turned their backs on me. People left me,
Right.
but I was never bitter. I wouldn't be able to be, have bonds with people I have bonds with if I would have allowed myself to become bitter.
Like, if I was in there, I don't know if I could have that fortitude to be like, oh, I can't. But I assume that that shows that your hustler spirit and your fighter spirit, you know, that you won't let something take you down and not allow you to get out. You can see the
I'm
sunlight out that hole, so you trying to get to the top to get out.
I'm I'm an eternal optimistic. I just believe that I'm gonna win. I always believe that no matter what.
Right.
Even when I'm not winning, I'm planning a way to win.
For sure.
And, that is what an eternal optimistic is. I just believe that it's gonna work out for me eventually. And that's how I live my life.
Right. So, we come into a close of another episode. Before you go, I want to know if you have any words for family and friends of the wrongfully convicted, people that may be in your situation that might not have a light or think they might not have a light at the end of the tunnel. What you got to say to those people?
To the family and friends that are wrongfully convicted, all things are possible. You have to believe in things you cannot see with conviction in your heart that you could still win. You could still make something happen, that it's not over. You have to believe in things you cannot see with conviction in your heart. And um, we can't do it alone. The men and women who maintain their innocence but are unjustly incarcerated and convicted cannot do this alone.
Right.
At the same time, those men and women have to give their supporters, their family, their friends, something to believe in.
Right.
And you do that through your actions. No one wants to believe in a loser, a defeated person.
Right.
But when you have a winning mentality, and you are optimistic and not a negative person, you could gravitate to you the things that you want and the things that you desire.
For sure. And with that, we out of here. We want to thank you for tuning into another episode. It's a process. We getting better and better as we go along, but it's going to develop into something that's going to be greater and for the greater good of not just us, but you guys out there that might have somebody or somebody that you may know that's in a situation that Ty's been in for these 26 years.
That's a fact. That's a fact. I couldn't have stated that better. Thank you, bro.
Thank you.
Peace.
Easy.